Hello everyone, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. Yesterday's newspaper, in the Hindu newspaper, in the front page, there was a very huge article and a very substantial, important article about something called as electoral bonds. So in this video, we will be talking about what is the concept of bond, how does the bonds work with respect to economy, and what do we call, if at all the government issues bonds and starts getting money by the people, what do we call that entire process as? What kind of borrowing is that? Okay, and we'll also be looking at what are these electoral bonds and what is the issue with respect to these electoral bonds, and where can you expect a question in the GS2 with respect to the electoral bonds. Okay, so before continuing with the video, I would like you to recommend you to subscribe the Legacy IAS Academy YouTube channel and also hit the bell icon so that you get all the updates from Legacy IAS Academy. See, as I told you already, in the Hindu newspaper, there was an article about the electoral bonds, and the article said, Supreme Court refers the electoral bonds case to a 5-judge constitution bench. Okay, which means there was an appeal already in the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court heard this particular appeal, and now what did the Supreme Court do? Referred the electoral bond case to a 5-judge constitutional bench. If at all in any bench of the Supreme Court, if there are 2 judges, then it is called as divisional bench. Okay, if it has 5 judges and more than 5 judges, you will have 5 judges, and sometimes you will have 7 judges, and sometimes you will have 9 judges and the 11 judges. So that particular bench is called as constitutional bench. Okay, any issue with respect to the constitutional matters of constitutionally important will be decided by constitutional bench only, and to be specific, 5-judge, 7-judge or the 9-judge bench of the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court considered the case of the electoral bonds as constitutionally or fundamentally important for the India's democracy, and that is the reason why that has been referred to constitutional bench. So because of this reason, if you go through this entire section of the article, you will get to know what is the history of the electoral bonds. In the year 2017, a Finance Act was passed and such electoral bonds came into existence, and people thought, to be specific, an organization called as ADR, Association for Democratic Reforms, felt that these electoral bonds are in violation of the transparency and they affect the basic structure of the constitution, that is the free and fair election, and they raised a complaint in the Supreme Court. And this issue, which happened in the year 2018, where the electoral bonds were introduced in the year 2017, and in the year 2023, Supreme Court has referred this particular issue to the constitution bench. Okay, so now let's try to understand what are electoral bonds. Before understanding specifically electoral bonds, let's try to understand how the bonds actually work. See, bonds are considered to be the borrowing in the form of debt for the government. See, it is not an equity borrowing where the government will be getting shares. So it is just a borrowing in the form of debt. So how will the bonds work? Government will issue bonds. It will look something like this. For example, it's a paper where the government has written that anyone who purchases this particular piece of paper issued by the government or backed by the government, and the face value of this particular paper is, let's say, 100 rupees. The face value is 100 rupees, and anyone who purchases this will get an interest of, let's say, 10% at the end of 1 year. So you hold this bond for 1 year time period and you pay 100 rupees to get this, and over a period of time, like after 1 year, you give this back to the government and government will give you 110 rupees. Okay, because it's 10% interest rate on the face value of 100 and the government will give you 110 rupees. See, this is how the bonds work. And this kind of borrowing, see here I just gave an example of 100 rupees, but usually will not have the 100 rupee bond given by the government. Okay, so this kind of borrowing, okay, by the people, see, government is selling these bonds to the people, and these kind of bonds which are sold to the people and people start procuring these bonds and giving money to the government is called as market borrowing. marketborrowing. This kind of borrowing is called as market borrowing. This is how in the economics bonds work. But these are not the bonds, electoral bonds we're talking about. These are not the bonds where government is giving the face value and promising 10% interest rate for a given particular 1 year. Okay, because these are electoral bonds given to the parties. So how will these electoral bonds work? As it is, as I told you already, it was introduced in the year 2017 by the way of financial bill and was implemented in the year 2018. How will this work? Individuals can go to bank, that is SBI. SBI is an authorized authority which can issue these electoral bonds. So people can go to SBI and with the denomination of let's say 100, 1000, 10,000 or 1 lakh, people can deposit cash and buy this bond, okay, and buy these bonds. And who will issue these bonds? These bonds will be issued by the registered political parties. These bonds can be issued by political parties. So political parties issue these bonds, and people, if they want to give money to that political party, if they want to fund that political party, then people will purchase these electoral bonds and they will fund the political party. But you might ask, what is the big issue in this? The big issue in this is the anonymity of the donor, except the political party that has even received the fund, or else except the person who has donated money to the political party. Nobody will even get to know that this individual has given this amount of money to this particular political party. Completely anonymity will be maintained. This is the reason why there is an issue. Okay, this complete anonymity is against the basic structure of the constitution, that is free and fair elections and also maintaining transparency in the process of elections. Okay, this is the issue. Now, if you look at the features of electoral bonds, the electoral bonds will be issued by the SBI, which means SBI is the only bank which can issue electoral bonds. That too not throughout the year. There will be a window of 15 days or 20 days that the government says. Only in these particular windows that the electoral bonds can be issued. And with a denomination of 1,000, 10,000, 1 lakh, 10 lakh and rupees 1 crore. These will be the denominations with which people can donate money, people can give money to the political party and have these bonds. Payable to the bearer on demand, and it is interest free. See, when I told you about the bonds in general, the bonds had the interest rate of usually 10%, you will have it as 7%, you will also have it as 6%, something like this. But these electoral bonds are interest free, okay, are very much interest free, purchased by the Indian citizens or entities established in India. Okay, these can be purchased by the Indians, can be brought by individual or jointly with other individuals. Okay, one person can buy it or two people together can buy it. Valid for 15 calendar days from the date of issue. Okay, so that is the reason, that's what I was talking about. You will have a window of 15 days. Okay, so between this 15 days ka window is where you can purchase these electoral bonds. Now, who can issue these electoral bonds? When I told you that all political parties can issue these electoral bonds, does it mean that all political parties can issue these electoral bonds? No. It does not mean that all political parties can come up with the electoral bonds. Only those political parties which have been registered under the section 29A of Representation of People's Act, RPA Act of 1951, only those political parties which have been registered under section 29A of the Representation of People's Act and who have not secured less than 1% of the votes in the general election, okay, not secured less than 1% of the votes to the parliament, okay, in the parliamentary election, they should not have been secured less than 1% of the votes to the, also to the legislative assembly, are eligible to receive or eligible to give out electoral bonds. Okay, see, not all the political parties. If you want to generally or if you want to genuinely have the electoral bonds, then you should have been secured more than 1% of the votes in either legislative assembly, that is state assemblies, or the parliamentary elections. If that is the case, only then you are eligible to issue electoral bonds. Why, you might ask, why is this a consideration? See, if this is not a consideration, then everybody who wants to raise money will just register a political party and start raising money through the electoral bonds, and it becomes an easy way to convert black money into white money. Okay, so that is the reason why genuinely operating political parties over a period of time, only those parties can raise money through electoral bonds. Next, what are the challenges faced? What are the challenges with respect to these electoral bonds? See, by this time, you would have understood what will be the challenge. The one biggest challenge will be the political parties that hide the identity of the donors and the recipients, which means there's a anonymity, complete anonymity with respect to the auditing firms where they audit the political parties. And political parties also have this debate where we are not a part of RTI, okay, Right to Information Act, clear? So because of all these reasons, electoral bonds will form a very opaque way of funding political parties. Potential for unauthorized donations violating regulations, this is what I was talking about. Finally, crony capitalism. Okay, what is this crony capitalism? See, we understood what is capitalism. Crony capitalism is where the political elite, the ruling government, is very much favorable to certain capitalists, and the ruling government is not transparent, ruling government is not equally distributing the opportunities, whereas the ruling entity, the political government, is favoring one corporate over the other corporate. And why is it favoring the one corporate? Because that corporate has donated money to the political party through electoral bonds. So this phenomena is called as crony capitalism. So these are some of the important criticisms or disadvantages with respect to electoral bonds. Now if you look at the way forward, see, for everything, if you look at the disadvantages, we'll also have to come out with the way forward. What can be done? There should be measures taken to enhance the transparency of the electoral bonds. There should be measures taken to enhance the transparency of the electoral bonds and enforce stricter regulations for the political parties who come out with the electoral bonds. Make sure that all the information about a donor should be disclosed by the political party. There should be continuous monitoring of the electoral bond scheme by the political parties, or you can also do one thing. Judiciary should have the power to enforce a political party and also get all the information required about its funding. Okay, so which means at the end of the day, the funding for the political party should become very much transparent, so that there is no irregularity with respect to money trial. Okay, so these are some of the way forward. These are some of the things that could be done in order to make sure that the electoral bond scheme work the way it is designed to be. So that's it for today's video. I hope if you've liked the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe Legacy IAS Academy. Have a nice day. Thank you.